What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. We now have the full patch notes for update 1.3.9, also known as season 3.2 or 3B or 369, whatever you want, but the second part of season 3. So I thought we could quickly go through these. The game is currently down as of the recording of this video for patching all of these things into the game, so it's not available to play right now, but we do have, as I said, the full patch notes, and we can kind of like go through this and see what they've been cooking for us. Okay, so a lot of the stuff here are things that we saw in the developer spotlight, or dev chat rather is probably the right way to say it, but there's a lot more detail here that we can actually feast on now, and that's obviously the reason for this video. So first things first, our new content island is the Supermassive Receptor dungeon. This is a new infiltration operation, aka dungeon. It is part of the hard package, so this is obviously for more advanced characters. I would say that you're probably not going to want to come in here with a brand new character. You'll probably get dumpstered. There's actually a few ways that you can access this. You can do this via action planes, the world map, and you can kind of like just directly queue into it. You can actually just be in Albion and just directly queue into it as well, or you can also just actually be on action planes and then you can go to something called the Receptor beacon, which is a location on the map itself, and you can actually get in. It's mentioned something here about weekly bonuses a set number of times. This will play into basically the things like ancestor module loot and premium collectible coins and unique arc factor XP, because this is like an additional sort of like loot pool that you have, which you can have in during the week. Now the big thing with this patch, of course, is ancestor modules, and there is almost like a gating mechanism where they're trying to like not have you be able to just sit down for like, you know, a 24-hour marathon and just farm the shit out of these and just get as many as possible. So there is kind of like a gating thing where there's a maximum earnable amount or a potentially earnable amount during a day and then also during a week. And so therefore there is this kind of like a thing where you kind of have to show up every day to get your bonus loot for the day, but then there's also the week and so on. It's mentioned that you can ride vehicles inside this dungeon, so obviously there's most likely going to be like long sections where you can kind of like drive from one side to the other. It does, however, mention that unlike other infiltration operations, this Receptor dungeon does not offer selectable rewards, kill score, or multiplier. So you know that with 400% infiltrations, all that stuff, you can choose like what you want. So you can choose whether you want donuts or whether you want you know, which rewards you want, and then there's all the different rewards in there, like additional crafting material for like descendants and weapons, everything like that. So this doesn't work this way. This is one that basically has its own unique setup for how the loot is found. So first of all, the weekly bonuses, how it breaks down is you have a ancestor module loot, a weekly bonus, one of which you can have 10 for the week, basically, right? Premium collectible coins, the same thing, and then unique arc factor for the same thing. This does, however, mean to me that you could potentially sit and do this 10 times in a row on the first day of the week, and then you've kind of like exhausted it for the week. So this allows you to kind of like choose how you want to consume this. I would say you could basically go, you know what, I got like a couple of hours today, let me just grind the fuck out of this and finish all my 10 runs for the week. Or you could do like 2 a day or something like that for 5 days straight. Then the different breakdown. Now, this is something that oftentimes I've seen that frustrates the community, because the point is now with all of the new things that has been added with this update, predominantly all of that shit can be gotten from this dungeon, obviously. And because there's such a huge amount of it, it's a fairly large loot pool. And you can basically end up with a situation where if you're looking for something very specific, then there is really like a very small chance that that thing shows up. And that is actually the case here as well. So we can run through some percentages here, but basically trigger module loot B is a 10% chance. So this, for each trigger module loot B, you can obtain one of the 3 new trigger modules. We're going to see what those 3 new trigger modules are, but we saw them in the dev stream already. It's a little bit further down in the patch notes. Then there's a mutant cell box C, which has a 5% chance of getting this, and this can give you one of the new 19 mutant cells. So there's a 5% chance of getting this box, and then from that box you can choose one of these 19 new ones. And the same thing, it says you can select and obtain one of the 19, whereas the trigger module loot B, this one, it says you can obtain one of the 3 new. So I'm assuming this just rolls. So this is not choosable. You kind of like, you could end up with the same trigger module multiple times in a row, which is obviously something that's also happened to me in the new fucking the wing of the ship. So that's obviously something as well. Then Harris is the new Descendant, so there's 10% chance for Harris pieces. Hive Master is one of the 2 new ultimate weapons that we're getting, the other one being the sword, of course, that comes in the battle pass, where there's a 15% chance for those pieces. Again, the point is that you can't choose these, so there's a 10% chance for like the Harris code to drop. The Harris code can just drop repeatedly the whole time for you, and I think that's gonna frustrate people to no end. It certainly happened to me in the past, so I fucking feel it. And then, of course, there's also Transcendant modules that can also drop here, right? So there's a 5% chance for one of the 2 new Hailey Transcendant mods, but based on her rework. And then, obviously, Harris herself has also got 2 Transcendant mods, which can also basically have a 5% chance of drop. Then there's also, for each melee weapon module ultimate loot, you can obtain one of the 32 new melee weapon modules as well, which was also added with this patch. So just a and then 40 collectible coins, just a massive amount of fucking loot that could drop from this one encounter at the, I'm assuming from the commander at the end of the fight. I don't, this isn't specifically mentioned here that this can drop from just boxes and stuff like that in the fucking instance. So I think this all comes from the commander, but then it's also mentioned upon defeating a commander, rare basic materials for crafting Harris and Hive Master. So basically the additional crafting materials alongside the blueprints that you need for crafting those. And then external components, there's also 2 new external component sets, so these also come from this commander. So there's the hazmat disposal team and pulsating power. Those pieces can also come from this. I'm assuming, as usual with these, it drops like 8, so maybe it drops like 4 of the hazmat and 4 of the pulsating power, so you get like 8 to drop or something like that. Then you also get Ancestor readjustment materials. We'll talk about that a little bit more now when we get to Ancestor's modules. But there's also like a material that specifically is used for re-rolling these Ancestor modules, which you can do very much like you basically re-roll like your vehicle stats. So that has its own thing. And then also new melee weapon modules. So I think these are the old melee weapon modules. I don't know if this is the new 32 new. I don't know. The patch notes read a little bit difficult. Next up, we have Harris, of course. She is the new Descendant that we're getting with this patch. She's kind of like a... I'm not going to go through all of her skills and everything. She will have her own video where we will go through that stuff. But she's kind of like a... she's like a scrappy, up close and personal fucking melee kind of Descendant, where you basically use her skills to, which some of them are direct damage skills and some of them are AoE skills, to like juice up her stats. She doesn't use MP, she uses her own custom resource, and then once you have a certain amount of that custom resource, you engage her skills, and then based on how much of that resource you have additional effects like more defense, more damage, that sort of thing. So she seems interesting. I mean, there's chances that she's going to be busted, to be honest. Okay, generally speaking, the new Descendants that are introduced, the last couple of ones that have been introduced are all meta, are all top of the fucking thing. So she's probably going to be fucking sexy. But yeah, we'll definitely do our own video and check her out. Then the 2 new ultimate weapons, as I mentioned, are also like mentioned here. So Hypernova is the new sword that uses impact rounds, that is part of the battle pass. So if you will obtain the pieces for that from the battle pass, and then or rather you'll just obtain the weapon. It's the battle pass weapon, like the Malevolent was the battle pass weapon at some point. Hive Master is the new tactical rifle, which is kind of like a what it does is it shoots this like bug mine thing that attaches to enemies, and then when you shoot that enemy that has the bug on it, it arcs out damage to the enemies around it. So it's kind of like a AoE clearing weapon from the looks of it. It remains to see if it's as good as some of the other AoE clearing weapons that we already have in the game, like Malevolent that I mentioned earlier, but chances are it's probably going to be busty. So yeah, it's got like a weird look. It looks like you're holding like a fucking bug in your hand and you're shooting stuff. So yeah, kind of funny. A quick little comment here on trading. You might be wondering, where the fuck is trading and why was that not discussed? This was actually pushed back to November 20th, I believe, and predominantly the reason for this was that prior to the decision for them to push back trading, the tax system in the game actually used Caliber, which is the paid currency. There was I would say a reasonably sizable pushback from the community saying that this is bullshit and that they should charge like gold or something like that for the tax, for the fee basically, to be able to sell stuff. And yeah, that's definitely, you know, being changed now. So the developer has reacted to that and obviously like put that in now, and that is the reason for the delay. So that's why we're not talking or haven't spoken about the trading system in this. It has pretty much been pushed out a little bit, but it's the main reason for it being pushed out is this adjustment. So I do, my own personal opinion, I see this as a massive fucking W. This was a good change and something that I absolutely fucking like wished for, and so super glad they did that. But we'll do a dedicated video on the whole trading thing once that motherfucker pops. Okay, then we get to ancestors modules, and there is a lot to talk about here. Now again, I kind of like have them figured out, and also I've read through these patch notes here like about 3 or 4 times just to make sure that I understand exactly what's going on. But it's a case of us having to have it in our hands to actually see, because some of the stuff reads a little bit difficult. But I'm gonna try and cherry pick some of the more important things out of this fucking giant wall of text here. But the bottom line is each ancestor module, it sets a random value between mastery ranks 10 and 30 as its equipping condition. So it's not mentioned here what the criteria is for setting that value, so I think it's literally just a dice roll. So it's possible that you can get an ancestors module and let's say you are, I think you have to be 18 or something like that to be able to do the dungeon or to be able to get these to drop. I'm not sure. Again, this is the part where I'm now potentially not really clear on. But the point is, when it drops, you can get something that drops with mastery rank 10, and that's super easy to equip. And by now most people have mastery rank 10. Mastery rank 10 is very easy to achieve. And then you can have something that's mastery rank 30, which is kind of like more rare, I would say. I don't know the exact percentage of players that are playing the game currently that have mastery rank 30, but I gotta say it's probably, I don't even know if it's as high as a third of the populace. So that is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be super frustrating if you get something that drops for you and it's kind of like perfect, but it's like 10 or 12 mastery ranks away, which is a hell of a fucking grind to be able to equip that module. Now, it says that the module readjustments are permanently recorded on the item. So the amount of times that you've readjusted the module, it'll say this has been readjusted 3 or 4 or 5 times, whatever. There are the ancestor module options, so the stuff on that is acquired randomly, and you can obtain up to 4 stats. Okay, these stats have tiers. Okay, so we have common, rare, ultimate, and transcendent tiers, right? The text color of the option will show you what tier it is. So obviously if you see blue, you know that it's common. If you see purple, you know that it's rare, and so on and so forth. Now, ancestors modules are affected by the Descendant's synchronization value. This is very this is kind of complicated, but basically what it breaks down to is Descendants that are already super powerful, right, will have I believe a low synchronization value. Okay, which means that the ancestors module, the stats for that descendant will not roll as high as for someone who has high synchronization value. And the way that the synchronization value works is that they're using the synchronization value, they upping that on descendants who are currently considered weak in the meta, which means that the ancestors modules are going to mean a lot more for those descendants because they're gonna be able to juice a lot more value out of them. The idea here being that in the back end, when a descendant is in the meta and is very powerful, they will adjust the synchronization value so that that descendant who's already very powerful does not benefit as much from an ancestors module. Whereas when you have a descendant that is weak, does not get picked a lot, is considered bottom of the barrel, outside the meta, they adjust that synchronization value to be high so that they benefit a lot more from the ancestors module. All right, so currently some descendants have a synchronization values based on their lower end performance. If a descendant's lower end performance improves through a rework or rebalance, like for example what happened now with Hailey, then they will adjust. Its synchronization value will also be adjusted to prevent excessive upper end performance. The bottom line here being that I think they want to use this as another way to balance out that almost all descendants are equally powerful in a way, something like that. So for example, the descendants who are currently considered like meta, like let's take Serena for example, right? Serena probably has a low synchronization value, so her modules will not have as much oomph as, like, let me see if I pick, I would imagine they probably consider Izumo to be, I don't know, maybe to be lesser value, right? Then Izumo will have you know less, will have a higher synchronization value, which means he'll benefit more from his Ancestors module. So that's pretty much it. Now, the 21 Ancestors modules have been added, are these ones here. They all have like a name, like Grenadier's Resolution is a Ancestors module that works on Lepic and Ultimate Lepic. So you can see that they've basically added them for every Descendant has its own type of name for the Ancestors module. I don't think, just scrolling through these, I don't see any overlap where this is shared by, there's even a mistake here made where they said Kyle and Ultimate Kyle, and then this was deleted. I think this might mean that we get Ultimate Kyle soon. Who knows, right? But yeah, there's no overlap here or something like that, so you won't have one Descendant being able to use another Descendant's Ancestors module, which is also something that they mentioned in the dev stream. So they say you can own up to 70 Ancestors modules from Mastery Rank 1, and then from Mastery Rank 11 onwards, you get one more per rank. So I guess if you're Mastery Rank 30, then you would get 19 additional, so you would have 89, if my maths is not poopies. And then it says you can obtain these modules from the following content. So it's not only the Supermassive Receptor, right? So Supermassive Receptor is a weekly bonus of one per bonus, up to 10 per week. The Dimensional Energy Stabilization Reading daily reward of 1, which is the buff that you get from Axion. Today's bonus for high risk difficulty Sigma sector. So when you do the Sigma sector, though, you can do that bonus twice a day, you know, for your additional Arc XP as well. So you can get 1 per zone. So that's 2 per day that you can get from that activity. You can, from ETA, you can buy 5 of these every weekend that ETA comes on. And then defeating Dimensional Breach Colossus in the Axion plane, so in other words, Wallcrasher, it has a chance to drop upon defeat. This doesn't say that it's capped though, so I don't know if this seems, again, this is what I'm saying, like a lot of the stuff is contradictory almost in a way. To me, this seems that couldn't you just sit and fucking, just every time Wallcrasher comes up every hour, you could go and do him, and then, you know, you have a chance of dropping. Let's say there's a 5% chance to drop, but you do Wallcrasher 10 hours every day, so you know, after 5 days that's 50 attempts. If it's a 5% drop rate, that's still not great. So yeah, I think their best bet for getting a lot of these is probably lying somewhere here. I would say doing Sigma sector, that's 2 per day from that, and then the 5 from ETA, and then like the 10 for the week from Supermassive Receptor is probably like the best way to do it. Guaranteed, right? It's guaranteed to get it. Then you can dismantle these, which will give you superconductive cooling units, which is the item that is used to re-roll Ancestors modules. Okay. So speaking of readjusting them, something that was also mentioned in the dev stream was that there would be an escalating cost for this. You can see this here. What is interesting though is I was not made to understand that the escalating cost had a cap to it, whereas this would suggest that it does. So from your first, second, third, fourth, and so on and so forth rerolls, once you get up to 10th and beyond, it kind of seems to me like the cost then freezes there. So this is it's going to be 445 superconductive cooling units, like basically 890,000 Kuiper shards and like 2.6 mil. And that means that once you get to 10, you always pay that same amount. That's what this table leads me to believe. So yeah. Where to get the readjustment material, so where to get superconductive cooling units. Of course, you can dismantle your ones for that, but then also Axion Plane's operational area. Upon mission completion, you can get 11. Supermassive Receptor, killing the commander, gives you 10. Void Vessel, medium size, so that's the new one that was added, you can get 10. Sigma Sector runs, you can get 6. Void Vessel, assumed bridge zone, that's the OG fucking Void Vessel run, can give you 13. So for some reason they want us to go back there and do that fucking shit. And then 400% infiltrations can actually give you 4 as well. This might be the fastest way to farm this shit, because if you get the right 400% infiltration to drop with the right Descendant, you can run these like, I don't know, fucking 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes a run. So you could really just fucking stack these up. So that might be the way to do that. Then there's 18 new Descendant modules and 32 new melee weapon modules that have been added, right? These can be obtained as rewards from the Supermassive Receptor dungeon, from the new wing and the Void Vessel, as well as from the Axion Planes missions, and also obviously through combining. I'm not going to read through all of these. There's a bunch of really, really good ones here. So obviously these will probably be in high demand. But yeah, you can see there's there's a lot. Okay, then the 3 new trigger modules, we did discuss them already in the dev stream as well, but they are Steel Vanguard, Relative Speed, and Domino Drive. Steel Vanguard, basically what it does. is hitting an enemy with a class type skill deals continuous damage to enemies near you. The damage increases by a percentage of your max shield and max HP. I believe this is the one that is also affected by like the whatever element you're, if I remember correctly, that's Steel Vanguard. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I got it wrong. But this is the damage is affected by the element of your reactor. So if you have a fire reactor, the damage is fire. If you have a toxic reactor, the damage is toxic. Relative speed says hitting an enemy with a slow type skill grants relative speed at max stacks of relative speed. Successful weak point attacks with a firearm deal AoE damage around the hit target. The damage increases by percentage of your max MP. All right. And the max stacks of relative speed, successful weak point attacks with a firearm. Wasn't relative speed the one that was like really good for like Viesa and like slowing them? I feel like, wasn't this the one that they showed? Fuck me, man. This was the one that they showed in the dev stream that was, you stack it up to 50 stacks, and then at max stacks, it deals like a massive, like, additional damage to the enemy. But now this says successful weak point attacks with a firearm deal AoE damage around the hit target. The damage increases by a percentage of your max MP. I don't know. We're gonna have to test this bitch. Okay. Domino Drive using a skill grants Domino Drive when using a chain type skill. It's fire skill power and skill power scale with the number of Domino Drive stack. So this is again for Fire Descendants. So yum, yum, yum. Then the Battle Pass is mentioned. As I said, the reason to get this would be the sword. Because that's the weapon for the Battle Pass. Then 19 new mutant cells are also mentioned here, right? So there's a fucking bunch in here. These kind of like focus on skills specifically. So if you use an emission type skill, it does something. If you use a supply type skill, it does something. So this really playing into like the skill types and everything like that. Some of these, once again, just like the other stuff that we were talking about earlier, they seem really juicy. Far better than the generic ones that we had, which was like, if you deal damage, stack your skill power 3 times by X, you know, something. This gives a little bit more variety. I think this might shake up builds a little bit is what I'm trying to say. 2 external component sets have been added, as I mentioned. Hazmat Disposal Team is basically seemingly kind of like for Harris. So this is when each target damaged by a normal AoE type skill grants 1 stack of Forced Execution up to 5 stacks. Forced Execution lowers your skill cooldown, but also lowers your dimension and singular skill power, which, by the way, those 2 skill power types are the types that she does not do. And then at 5 stacks of Forced Execution, additionally grants Toxin Dispersal. Toxin Dispersal is toxic skill power 65% up. And she's, of course, a toxic descendant, so yeah. Pulsating power is basically that this thing says that when an emission type skill is active, it grants you 1 stack of output amplification. What output amplification does is it increases the skill cost of the skill that you're using, but it also increases your skill power. Emission type skills are like shit like Bunny, for example. At 5 stacks of output amplification, additionally grants emission skill power type 10%. This goes up to 5 stacks, so you could basically increase the skill cost by 20%, but you can also increase your skill power by 30%. So this is worth giving a test to it. Whether this is better than what we already have in terms of tech, this might actually be really good, but yeah, we need to see that. By the way, I mean, for what it's worth though, it's not like fucking busted. So you have the 30% increase here, and then when you add 5 stacks, you get another 10% on top of that, so you go to 40% increase, which is certainly more than Slayer, right? But yeah. Then Inversion Reinforcement, there was a lot of speculation about whether the Inversion Reinforcements were going to get reset. Usually they do that in the second part of a season, but this was not mentioned or touched on in the dev stream at all. So people are like, oh my god, it looks like the shit's not changing. It is. So we have some skills which are changing to ones that we saw in prior seasons, and also some of the nodes that are being adjusted in terms of like, you know, making them a little bit better. So some of the more useful inversion have been retained, while the effects of some others have been changed. Hunt and attribute categories have been renamed to skill and weapon categories. The activation conditions and effects that have been adjusted to suit different categories, allowing players to select effects that are appropriate for the situation. So it seems like this is becoming a little bit more, I think, something that I think means more in terms of like customization, where generally speaking what happens with the Inversion Reinforcement board is there's really like 4 good nodes on there, and most builds tend to hover around those 4 depending on whether skill cooldown is important for you or, you know, whatever. So yeah, but I'm not going to go through all of these individually. There's way too much here, and that'll make like a 55 fucking minute video, and I don't think anybody's got time for that. But maybe we'll do a short little video on the inversion reinforcements once we have them in front of us and we can actually look at the nodes and we can kind of like say which ones are the GOAT nodes to pick up. Other than that, just going through here, there's going to be some random little things that I'm going to cherry pick here for you. It is mentioned that there will be some skins and the back attachments which will be retired after the maintenance on December 4th, and then you know, won't be able to buy those. So if you want to do that, then obviously get on top of that. Then of course the Descendant rebalancing, we have Hailey. Okay, she's kind of like the main one leading the rebalancing in this particular patch. Pretty much here you can see across the board, so she's gotten like a very similar treatment to what we've seen with Lepic in the past and so on. So it's a full fucking you know, going over her and readjusting all her skills up. So you can see a lot of these things, like the damage values have been tweaked up significantly. Like cryo round is up from 93 to 469, which is, and yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff here. And then she has a new kind of like effect on her, which now is only present on her and Gley, and that basically says that her skill Zenith, which is her 4th skill, right, gets additional damage based on the number of weapon cores that the gun that you're using for that skill has. So if you have 5 weapon cores on there, you get all of these. So you get more rounds per magazine, you get additional firearm critical hit rate, you get more weak point damage, you get more chill skill power increase, and you get damage reduction for yourself. So this is huge, dude. This is a nice fucking damage cap on top, right? This is sick. And then her modules have also been adjusted, so cryogenic cluster shot has been significantly boosted up. And then super cooled Kuiper round, the same thing, right? So this thing here, the same effect is also present here. This is like super cooled Kuiper round is kind of like her sniping module, and this has also got like a significant power, you know, damage increase here as well. Then she has 2 new modules. Camouflage sniping basically allows her to deal more damage against untargeted enemies. So enemies that aren't targeting her, she'll deal more damage to them. And this is going to be a good module for in group situations where you are basically the backline and you have other Descendants that are ahead of you with the Void Intercept boss attracting its attention, and then you can just lay into the boss with this and it will deal a fuckload of damage. Cold Heart is her new module, which basically turns her almost into like a mini Viesa, I would say, and more importantly also completely takes away that movement what's the word I'm looking for, penalty that Hailey suffers under the entire time. So this is going to be interesting. It's a completely different way to play her, where you're not emphasizing sniping anymore, but you're rather doing like AoE chill blast damage close to the enemy. So it's going to be cool. Then Luna and Ultimate Luna obviously as well has had some adjustments as well. So maximum applicable amount to the skill power increase from when using basic skills is 1000 MP. So you'll see something similar when we get to Ines now as well. This is something that I saw people had a big reaction to already, like on fucking Twitter. And that is because basically this on the onset of this, when you look at this looks like a what do you call it, a nerf, right? Because this says added a maximum applicable amount to max MP scaling effects. Maximum applicable MP to the skill critical hit rate increase effect is 600. Maximum applicable MP to dark current additional damage is 800, and plasma ball is 800. Now basically how I understand the need for this on Luna and Ines is with ancestors modules you can most likely roll stuff that give you additional MP or something like that, right? I would assume. And so then you could scale your MP to ridiculously high levels, which would mean that you could, you know, completely take some of those other modules away. Like you could take skill critical hit rate modules and stuff away, for example, on Ines, because if you scale mana high enough or MP high enough, then because that directly correlates to your critical hit rate with Ines, then you basically gain a massive amount of benefit from that will allow you to open up even more module slots in the rest of the build. But again, we need to test this, right? I don't know if this adjustment affects base Ines as it is right now. I need to see it in the game, and I can't right now because obviously I can't get access to the game. I need to see if this has not somehow, like, almost in a way nerfed Ines now, where we could be able to get to skill critical hit rate of 100%, whether we still get to that with this. So we need to be able to see that. All right. And I will report back on that, of course. Gley and Ultimate Gley also got basically the same effect as what we saw on Hailey, which is really cool. When using Massacre or Demonic Modification, you get additional buffs based on the number of weapon cores you currently have equipped when you switch to her unique weapon. So you get fire rate, firearm attack. Actually, you don't even have to switch to a unique weapon. I think this is just off the bat for the gun that you have in your hand. And that is, dude. Gley is, yo, my dude. Look at this. Fire rate 20%, firearm attack 80%, weak point damage 62%, bonus firearm attack versus Colossi 550, and skill power increase of 33. Dude, Gley already did not have any issues whatsoever in completely fucking dumpstering Colossi, and she about to step that shit up. So yeah, Gley players, Mommy Gley is here. She's ready. Then there's just some mention of shops and blah 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 blah. There is something specifically that I want to look at because they adjusted Wallcrasher, so I want to look at that part. Yes, this is the last part of the video, guys. I'm about to let you go, but here we go. So it was also mentioned in the dev stream that they would be adjusting Wallcrasher. This was their way to essentially deal with fucking rampant Serena abuse, was because Serena uses multi-hit and Wallcrasher previously did not have multi-hit resistance, I believe. They have now given Wallcrasher multi-hit resistance, which is supposed to be a nerf to Serena. I mean, why wouldn't you just touch Serena's values? Why the fuck are you messing with Wallcrasher? But on the other hand, it is a good thing because of the, I would say, sweeping fucking nerfs that Wallcrasher has taken now. I believe this opens up the fight to almost like any Descendant is now gonna be all right in the Wallcrasher fight, because as you can see, the firearm skill critical hit resistance has basically been more than halved. It does have multi-hit resistance now. Then it's lost a significant portion of HP. It's lost a significant portion of shield, and its defense as well as resistances against the elements has also basically halved. So Wallcrasher is gonna die fast now, dude. And again, the point is this multi-hit resistance is something, but the thing is, fucking 6 Serenas are still gonna completely and utterly just dumpster him. But again, like I said, this means that it'll be open to more Descendants to be able to come in and also fucking roll with. I think that's pretty much it. The rest of the stuff is just adjustments to the fucking shop and all that stuff, and I'm not gonna cover that because don't really care about the shop. But yeah, but that's it. Let me know in the comments down below what has you most excited about this patch. There's definitely, I think, a lot of new shit for us to farm, that's for damn sure, which potentially has implications on the builds which we have for Descendants right now. So some of these new modules and stuff like that can probably change things up for us a little bit. It's exciting to try out Harris, of course. I do want to get some Ancestors modules for some of my favorite Descendants because I think that's going to just make them be hot. But yeah, super looking forward to it. And I think basically I'm gonna try and publish this video so that it's available pretty much like an hour before we are able to play the patch. So hopefully you guys can check this out and see something you like. Thank you very much for watching, especially if you made it this far. The support's been fantastic. Keep your eye on the channel for additional videos like this and builds and stuff, all things First Descendant. I'm also covering other games, so if this sort of thing interests you, go ahead and throw me a sub. And other than that, I've got nothing else to say except fucking cheers.